Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished listeners, it is not often that an announcement from a landlocked West African nation reverberates across the entire globe and sparks conversations in the halls of international power, in financial capitals, and in communities that rarely notice the developments of faraway states. Yet, the unveiling of an ambitious plan to construct a mega-city valued at an estimated $3 trillion has done precisely that. It has startled analysts, captured the imagination of citizens, and challenged preconceived ideas of what is possible for a country historically defined by poverty statistics, fragile institutions, and the burdens of insecurity. What has been put forward is not merely a blueprint of steel and glass. It is a bold declaration of intent, a vision that seeks to leapfrog decades of incremental development and thrust a struggling nation into the front lines of global conversation about modernity, innovation, and self-determination. The figure alone demands attention. $3 trillion is not a number often associated with African development projects. It is a sum that exceeds the gross domestic product of many advanced economies, a scale that dwarfs ordinary infrastructure plans, and a concept so vast that skeptics quickly question its feasibility. Yet it is precisely the audacity of the vision that compels us to look more closely. This is not simply about the construction of skyscrapers or highways. It is about reshaping an entire national identity, about sending a signal to citizens and to the world that the time of small ambitions has ended, and that the resources, the creativity, and the resilience of the people will be harnessed in unprecedented ways. To understand the transformative implications, one must first consider the symbolic power of such an announcement. Nations are often defined not only by their material capacity, but by the stories they tell themselves and by the narratives they project outward. For too long, many African states have been framed in international discourse as aid recipients, perpetually dependent on the benevolence of others. To announce a mega-city of this magnitude is to disrupt that narrative, to insist that the future will not be scripted by external donors or dictated by institutions beyond the continent, but by the imagination and determination of the people themselves. In this sense, the megacity project functions as a cultural reset, a rejection of inherited limitations, and a recalibration of collective pride. However, symbolism must eventually be tested by substance. Ambition, to be credible, must rest on foundations of feasibility. Analysts have therefore raised immediate questions about where the funding will come from, how governance structures will ensure transparency, and what safeguards will be put in place to avoid the pitfalls of debt traps or white elephant projects. These are not cynical inquiries, but necessary ones, for history is replete with examples of visionary announcements that collapsed under the weight of mismanagement or corruption. To avoid such fate, the architects of this mega-city must ensure that financing mechanisms are diversified, that foreign partnerships do not compromise sovereignty, and that the allocation of contracts reflects fairness rather than favoritism. Only with such rigor can the dream withstand scrutiny and inspire long-term confidence. The proposed megacity also forces us to reconsider the relationship between urban planning and national development. Too often, infrastructure investments in the region have been reactive, designed to patch existing gaps rather than anticipate future needs. By contrast, this vision proposes to build an entirely new urban ecosystem from the ground up, integrating residential zones, industrial hubs, digital infrastructure, renewable energy grids, and social amenities in a holistic design. If realized effectively, such a project could address the challenges of rural-urban migration, create employment opportunities on a massive scale, and serve as a magnet for regional integration. It could become a testing ground for green technologies, smart city innovations, and new models of inclusive governance. Yet, with opportunity comes profound responsibility. Mega projects of this scale risk creating islands of prosperity amid seas of poverty if they are not carefully integrated into broader development strategies. The priority must be not only to construct dazzling towers, but to ensure that rural communities, farmers, and small-scale entrepreneurs feel connected to the new urban economy. Employment policies must prioritize local labor. Vocational training must be expanded to equip citizens with the skills demanded by modern industries, and social housing must be embedded in the plan to avoid the replication of exclusionary urban models. A megacity that caters only to elites or foreign investors would deepen inequality rather than resolve it. A megacity that is genuinely inclusive could become a model of transformation not only for the nation, but for the entire continent. Environmental sustainability is another dimension that cannot be ignored. $3 trillion in concrete and steel, if pursued without ecological mindfulness, could devastate ecosystems, exhaust water supplies, and contribute to the climate crisis. Conversely, if designed with foresight, the project could become one of the world's leading demonstrations of climate-resilient urbanization. Solar farms, wind energy, and advanced waste management systems could be integrated into its design, creating a living laboratory for sustainable growth. In a world increasingly concerned with carbon footprints, a city that merges modernity with environmental stewardship would not only serve its citizens, but also command global respect. Geopolitical implications are equally striking. By announcing such a project, the nation positions itself at the center of international competition for influence. Global powers, eager to secure access to resources, markets, and strategic footholds, will undoubtedly seek involvement. This presents both opportunity and risk. Opportunity, in that competition, can yield favorable terms of investment, technology transfer, and diplomatic leverage. Risk, in that external actors may seek to exploit vulnerabilities, impose hidden conditions, or entangle the project in the rivalries of great powers. The success of the megacity will depend on the ability to navigate this geopolitical chessboard with wisdom, ensuring that partnerships are balanced and that sovereignty is preserved. For the citizens themselves, the promise of such a project has sparked a wave of imagination. Youth, who constitute the majority of the population, see in it the possibility of jobs, modern housing, advanced education, and a future that does not require emigration. Entrepreneurs envision markets, opportunities to scale, and access to infrastructure previously unimaginable. Artists, writers, and cultural leaders see a new canvas upon which to project the identity of a proud and forward-looking nation. This collective enthusiasm, however, must be harnessed responsibly. Managing expectations is crucial, for disillusionment can be as destabilizing as poverty. Transparent communication, phased timelines, and realistic benchmarks will ensure that hope remains grounded in achievable progress. Critics, meanwhile, argue that $3 trillion could be better spent on immediate needs, improving rural health care, expanding agricultural productivity, building feeder roads, and ensuring clean water access. They warn that a megacity risks draining attention and resources away from pressing social priorities. This critique is not without merit. The challenge is therefore not to choose between the present and the future, but to design the megacity as a catalyst for broader development. If revenues from its industries are reinvested in nationwide programs, if its technology hubs support agricultural innovation, if its healthcare systems pioneer models replicated across the country, then the project can serve as both a flagship and a foundation for inclusive growth. One must also consider the psychological dimension. In societies long accustomed to narratives of limitation, poverty, and dependency, a bold project of unprecedented scale can transform mindsets. It signals to citizens that they are not condemned to perpetual marginalization, that they have the right to dream in global dimensions, and that their children can aspire to a quality of life equal to that enjoyed anywhere in the world. This psychological emancipation may, in fact, be as important as the physical infrastructure itself. The power of possibility can energize a generation, fostering resilience, innovation, and collective determination. The international community, too, must reckon with the implications. For decades, the relationship between Africa and the outside world has often been structured around aid and conditional loans. A $3 trillion megacity project flips the script, inviting investors, corporations, and governments to engage not as patrons, but as partners. It demands a recalibration of stereotypes, forcing the recognition that ambition and capability are not the monopoly of advanced economies. If successful, it could inspire other states across the continent to articulate bold visions of their own, creating a ripple effect of confidence and competition. In evaluating such a transformative proposal, one must resist two temptations: uncritical celebration and cynical dismissal. The truth lies in between. The project is neither a guaranteed miracle nor an impossible fantasy. It is a challenge, one that will require disciplined planning, rigorous oversight, inclusive governance, and international negotiation. It will require the courage to confront corruption, the wisdom to avoid debt traps, and the humility to learn from global best practices. Above all, it will require the sustained participation of citizens who believe that their contributions matter and that their sacrifices will yield shared prosperity. In conclusion, the announcement of a $3 trillion megacity in a nation often overlooked by the engines of global capital is nothing short of extraordinary. It shocks because it defies expectations, because it invites the world to look again at a country long dismissed as peripheral, and because it demands that we expand our sense of what is possible in Africa. Whether it succeeds or falters will depend not on the brilliance of architectural renderings, but on the steadfastness of governance, the inclusivity of economic policy, the sustainability of environmental design, and the integrity of political will. If these align, the megacity may not only transform a single nation, but reshape the narrative of an entire continent. If they falter, the lesson will be equally profound. That vision, without accountability, cannot endure. Either way, the world will watch, and history will record. And for the citizens whose dreams have been ignited, the project has already accomplished something remarkable. It has placed their future at the center of the global stage, daring them to believe in greatness and challenging them to achieve it.